The message arrived early, before the city fully woke up. Ethan was sitting at the small kitchen table, coffee cooling beside him, when his phone vibrated once and went still. He almost ignored it. Mornings were the only quiet time he trusted. But something told him this message mattered. When he read it, his jaw tightened, and the room felt smaller. Claire's words were polite, careful, clean. "We're keeping the wedding very small. Immediate family only. I hope you understand." Ethan read it twice. Immediate family. The phrase echoed like a locked door clicking shut. He didn't reply. He didn't need to. He already understood. This was not new. It was simply the third time it had happened. Olivia's wedding came first, years ago, announced with excitement and ended with excuses. She said the venue was limited, the guest list tight, the pressure unbearable. Ethan believed her then. He sent a gift he couldn't really afford and waited for photos that never included him. Marcus's wedding came next, far away, expensive, framed as impossible for Ethan to attend. By then, the pattern was clearer, but Ethan still said nothing. Now Claire, the sibling he once protected from school bullies and late-night fears, had made the same choice. 3 weddings, 3 exclusions, 3 quiet messages that said the same thing without saying it at all. Ethan leaned back and stared. At the wall, he tried to name what he felt. It wasn't shock. It wasn't even anger yet. It was a dull, heavy certainty. He had always known where he stood with them. This message only confirmed it. Growing up, Ethan had been the odd one. While his siblings followed neat paths, top grades, safe careers, impressive titles, Ethan drifted. He failed a year in college. He worked jobs that didn't impress anyone. He tried things that didn't always work. To him, those years were lessons. To his family, they were warnings. At every family gathering, he felt it. The careful questions, the tight smiles, the way conversations shifted when he joined them. He wasn't openly insulted. That would have been easier. Instead, he was quietly managed like a problem no one wanted to face directly. Weddings, Ethan now realized, were simply the moments when that truth became visible. A wedding was a mirror, and his siblings did not want his reflection near theirs. The phone buzzed again. A follow-up message. Claire added a heart emoji this time, as if kindness could soften the cut. Ethan turned the phone face down. His coffee was cold now. He stood, poured it out, and watched the dark liquid vanish down the sink. It felt fitting. He had poured years of effort into these relationships, and they disappeared just as quietly. As the day moved on, memories surfaced without asking permission. Standing outside Olivia's wedding venue, knowing he wasn't welcome. Watching Marcus laugh in photos, surrounded by people who barely knew him, while Ethan's name was missing. Each memory stacked on the last, building pressure. He had always told himself it didn't matter. He had told himself family love didn't need proof. But proof was exactly what he lacked. That night, Ethan walked through his small apartment, restless. He had built this life alone. No loans from family. No favors. Every chair, every light, every tool in his workshop was earned through long hours and quiet determination. He was proud of that, even if no one else seemed to care. Yet pride didn't protect him from the hurt. Being strong didn't mean being. Numb. He sat down and finally typed a reply. Then he deleted it. He typed another. Deleted again. Any response felt wrong. Polite words felt dishonest. Angry words felt weak. Silence, he decided, was the only honest answer. For the first time, he let himself imagine a future where he stopped trying to be chosen. Days passed. Life continued. Work demanded focus, and Ethan gave it everything. His business, once fragile, was growing. Clients trusted him. Deals closed. His name meant something in places his siblings never looked. Success didn't erase the past, but it changed the shape of it. For the first time, Ethan saw how much power he actually had not over others, but over himself. Then the calls started. Small at first. Marcus asking how business was going. Olivia sending a casual message about investing. The timing wasn't lost on Ethan. Their interest rose as his value became harder to ignore. He answered politely but briefly. He didn't confront them. He didn't accuse them. He simply watched and learned. Claire eventually called. Her voice was warm, nervous. She talked about the wedding plans, the stress, the cost. She didn't apologize. She didn't explain. Instead, she asked if Ethan could help, financially. Just a little support, she said. Family helps family. That was the moment something inside Ethan broke cleanly in two. Not with noise or drama, but with clarity. He realized that exclusion had never been about space or money. It had been about status, about image, about control. And now, the balance had shifted. After the call ended, Ethan sat in the dark, phone still in his hand. The urge for revenge rose fast and sharp. He imagined saying no. Imagine the shock, the confusion, the hurt. Imagine how it would feel to finally be the one who decided who mattered. The thought scared him, not because it was cruel, but because it felt good. He stood and looked at his reflection in the window. Older now. Stronger. Still carrying the weight of being unwanted. He understood then that revenge didn't begin with action. It began with recognition. Recognition that the past had shaped him, and that pretending otherwise had only kept him small. Ethan didn't know yet what he would do. But he knew one thing with certainty. The version of himself who accepted silent rejection was gone. Whatever came next, revenge, distance, or something else entirely, would be his choice. And for the first time in his life, that felt powerful. Success did not arrive with celebration. It came quietly, like sunrise through a narrow window. Ethan's business grew month by month, built on long nights, careful choices, and a refusal to quit when quitting would have been easier. He didn't tell his family. He didn't feel the need. Still, word traveled. It always did. People talked. Numbers spoke. Suddenly, the sibling no one wanted in their wedding photos had become the one whose name carried weight. With success came attention. And attention reopened old doors Ethan never asked to unlock. Marcus called first. His voice friendly, almost casual. He asked how things were going, praised Ethan's work, and hinted at opportunities. Ethan listened more than he spoke. He noticed how Marcus avoided the past, how the conversation stayed safely in the present. There was no mention of missed weddings or long silences. Just business. Just convenience. Olivia followed soon after. Her messages were warm, full of encouragement. She talked about ideas, partnerships, and how proud she was. The word proud sat heavy in Ethan's mind. He wondered when that pride had begun. Before or after his success became useful. He replied with courtesy but distance, each message shorter than the last. Claire's call came late one evening. Ethan recognized the pattern immediately. The softer voice. The careful tone. She spoke about her upcoming vow renewal, how it was bigger than the wedding she once kept him out of. She talked about stress, expectations, and rising costs. Then she asked. Not directly, not boldly. She suggested. She hinted. Family supports family, she said. Ethan thanked her for calling and said he would think about it. When the call ended, the room felt heavier than before. That night, sleep refused to come. Ethan lay awake, staring at the ceiling as memories mixed with plans. Old moments replayed in sharp flashes. Being left out. Being dismissed. Being told to understand. For years, he had swallowed those moments and called it maturity. Now they returned, demanding payment. Revenge appeared not as rage, but as logic. A simple equation. You denied me when I needed you. Now you need me. He walked through the apartment, restless. His reflection followed him in dark windows and mirrors. He asked himself what he wanted. Justice? Recognition? Control? The answers changed each time he asked. One thing stayed the same. He was tired of being the one who accepted less. Ethan began to plan, not out loud, not on paper, but in thought. He imagined the conversations, the calm refusal, the shock on their faces. He imagined setting boundaries so clear they could know. Longer pretend not to see them. The idea filled him with energy, then doubt. He questioned whether this was strength or bitterness wearing a better suit. During the day, he buried himself in work, meetings, deadlines, decisions that affected real people. Work reminded him who he was now. A man who built something real. A man others depended on. At night, the conflict returned. The part of him that wanted peace argued with the part that wanted balance. One side said revenge would only keep him tied to the past. The other said forgiveness without accountability was just surrender. He met an old friend for coffee. Someone who knew him before the success. They talked about life, work, pressure. Ethan didn't mention his family directly, but the weight slipped into his words. His friend listened and said something simple. You don't owe anyone access to you. The sentence stayed with Ethan long after they parted. Days passed. The siblings followed up. Messages grew more direct. Marcus asked if Ethan could look at a proposal. Olivia asked if he could attend a planning meeting. Claire sent venue photos and talked about how meaningful it would be to have his support. None of them apologized. None of them named the past. They moved forward as if history were a file that could be closed without being read. Ethan felt anger rise, but it was controlled now. Focused. He realized the real conflict was not between him and his siblings. It was inside him. He was choosing between two versions of himself. One that reacted from pain. One that acted from self-respect. The difference mattered more than he expected. Late one night, Ethan sat at his desk and wrote down what he remembered from each wedding he missed. Not the events, but the feelings. Confusion. Shame. Loneliness. He wrote until the list ended. Then he wrote what he felt now. Confidence. Caution. Strength mixed with doubt. The contrast was clear. He was no longer the man they excluded, but he was still carrying that man inside him. He practiced the words he might say. He didn't rehearse anger. He rehearsed calm. He wanted his choice to land not like a strike, but like a door closing. Firm. Not cruel. Not cruel. Just honest. As the family dinner approached, the tension sharpened. Ethan knew the conversation would come. He felt ready and unready at the same time. He understood that whatever he chose would define the relationship moving forward. Revenge promised satisfaction, but only for a moment. Boundaries promised something quieter, something lasting. The night before the dinner, Ethan stood by the window and looked out at the city lights. He thought about how far he had come without them. He thought about how much energy he had spent wanting their approval. That desire felt smaller now, manageable. He didn't need to hurt them to prove anything, but he also didn't need to save. then from discomfort. For the first time, Ethan accepted a hard truth. Healing and revenge often stand close together, wearing similar faces. The difference lies in intent. One seeks to restore balance. The other seeks to wound. He wasn't sure yet which path he would take, but he knew this much. He would not shrink again. When he finally turned off the lights and went to bed, his mind was quiet. The decision was coming. The conflict had done its work. Whatever happened next would not be an accident. It would be chosen. And that knowledge gave him a strange, steady calm. The dinner was set for a quiet evening, chosen carefully to feel normal. A neutral restaurant. Soft lights. A long table meant to bring people together. Ethan arrived early. He wanted to control at least one thing. He sat straight, hands folded, breathing slow. His face was calm, but his chest carried years of pressure. One by one, his siblings arrived. Olivia first, polished and confident. Marcus next, relaxed but watchful. Claire came last, smiling too quickly, eyes searching his face for signs. They hugged, exchanged small talk, laughed at safe memories. No one mentioned weddings. Not yet. The silence around the subject felt tight, stretched thin like glass ready to crack. Menus closed. Orders placed. The wait began. Ethan watched them as they talked. He noticed how easily they spoke to each other. How shared history gave them comfort. He also noticed how often they glanced at him, as if checking his mood, measuring his usefulness. The feeling was familiar. He didn't shrink from it this time. Marcus cleared his throat first. "So," he said lightly, "Claire's renewal is shaping up nicely." Claire nodded, grateful for the opening. "It's going to be special," she said. "A fresh start." Ethan met her eyes. He said nothing. Olivia leaned forward. We're thinking it might be nice if we all worked together on this. Like a family should." There it was. The door opening. The moment he had prepared for. Ethan took a slow breath. He felt the old fear try to rise, the instinct to soften, to please. He let it pass. "I've thought about it," he said evenly. "And I've made a decision." All three siblings stiffened. "I won't be involved," Ethan continued. "Not financially, not in planning, not as support." The words landed clean and sharp. No anger, no apology. Claire blinked. "What? Why?" Ethan didn't rush. "Because when it mattered to me, I wasn't included. And no one thought that needed fixing." Marcus frowned. "That was different." Ethan turned to him. "How?" Marcus hesitated. "You weren't stable. Back then, things were complicated." Ethan nodded slowly. "They were. For me. And I handled them alone." Olivia crossed her arms. "So this is payback?" The question hung heavy. Ethan considered it carefully. "No," he said. "This is honesty." Claire's voice shook. "You could help. You're doing well now. We're family." Ethan looked at her. Really looked. He saw someone who believed her own reasons, who never meant to hurt him, but never tried to stop it either. "Family doesn't disappear when it's inconvenient," he said. "And it doesn't reappear only when it's useful." Silence spread. Across the table. Other diners laughed nearby. Life moved on around them. Marcus leaned back, defensive. "You're punishing us." Ethan shook his head. "I'm protecting myself." Olivia scoffed softly. "You've changed." "Yes," Ethan said. "That's the point." For a moment, he wondered if this was the revenge he had imagined. The shock on their faces. The discomfort. The sudden loss of control. It was there, undeniable. A quiet satisfaction flickered inside him. But it didn't grow. It didn't consume him. It passed quickly, like a breath released. Claire's eyes filled, but she didn't cry. "So that's it," Ethan nodded. "I wish you well, I truly do. But I won't pretend the past didn't happen just to keep things easy." The food arrived, untouched. No one reached for it. The rest of the dinner passed in short sentences and forced calm. Eventually, they stood, exchanged stiff goodbyes, and went their separate ways. No shouting. No dramatic exits. Just distance settling into place. Ethan walked out into the night air alone. His heart pounded, not from fear, but from release. He had crossed the line he once thought impossible. He had said no without apology. As he drove home, doubt tried to creep in. Had he gone too far? Had he burned a bridge he might one day miss? The questions came fast, but none stayed long. Beneath them was something stronger. Relief. At home, he sat in silence, replaying the moment again and again. He searched himself for regret. He didn't find it. What he found instead was sadness, clean and honest. Sadness for what never was. For the family he hoped for but never had. Days passed. Messages arrived, then stopped. The space between them grew real. Ethan felt the absence, but it no longer felt like rejection. It felt chosen. One evening, Ethan stood by the window again, watching the city lights. He realized something important. Revenge had brought him to the edge, but it hadn't pushed him forward. Choice had. He hadn't acted to hurt them. He had acted to stop hurting himself. The power he felt wasn't loud. It didn't demand attention. It simply existed, steady and quiet. For the first time, Ethan wasn't waiting to be invited. He wasn't hoping to be accepted. He was complete where he stood. And whatever came next, he would face it on his own terms. The weeks after the dinner felt strangely quiet. No arguments followed. No long messages demanding explanations. Just space. At first, the silence felt sharp, like standing in cold air without a coat. Ethan noticed it in small moments. When his phone stayed still, when weekends passed without family plans, when holidays approached with no expectations attached. The absence was real, but it was no longer painful in the same way. It felt honest. Ethan focused on his routine. He woke early, worked long hours, and ended his days tired in a good way. His business continued to grow, not because he pushed harder, but because he worked with clarity. Decisions came easier now. He no longer carried the hidden weight of trying to prove himself to people who had already decided who he was. That freedom changed everything. One evening, he received a short message from Olivia. It wasn't an apology. It wasn't an argument. It simply said she hoped he was well. Ethan read it, then set the phone down. He didn't rush to reply. For the first time, he understood that silence could be a choice, not a punishment. He eventually answered with a polite sentence and nothing more. It felt balanced. Marcus reached out weeks later, asking to meet. Ethan agreed. Curious but cautious. They sat across from each other in a quiet cafe. Marcus looked older somehow, less certain. He spoke about pressure, expectations, how he always believed he was doing the right thing. He didn't admit fault directly, but he didn't defend himself either. Ethan listened without interrupting. When Marcus finished, Ethan simply said he understood, but understanding didn't erase impact. Marcus nodded. That was all. They parted without warmth, but without hostility. It was enough. Claire never reached out. Ethan thought about her often, not with anger, but with reflection. He realized she had followed the strongest voices around her, not out of cruelty, but out of fear. That understanding softened something in him. It didn't change his choice, but it removed the last sharp edge from it. As time passed, Ethan noticed something unexpected. The desire for revenge faded completely. What once felt urgent now felt unnecessary. He no longer imagined winning or losing against his siblings. The story had shifted. It wasn't about them anymore. It was about the life he was building and the peace he was protecting. One night, while organizing old files, Ethan found photos from years ago. Family gatherings, forced smiles. He studied his younger self in those images. He saw someone trying hard to belong, someone waiting to be included. He felt compassion, not shame. He wished he could tell that version of himself one thing: you don't need their permission to matter. Ethan began spending time with people who chose him without conditions. Friends who showed up. Partners who respected boundaries. Conversations felt lighter. Laughter came easier. He realized that family could be built, not just inherited. That truth settled deep and stayed. The vow renewal came and went. Ethan heard about it through mutual connections. It was beautiful, they said. Well planned, well attended. The news didn't stir much inside him. No jealousy. No bitterness. Just distance. The kind that allows wounds to close. Late one evening, Ethan sat alone on his balcony, watching traffic move like slow rivers of light. He thought about revenge, about how close he had come to letting it guide him. He understood now that revenge promises relief, but often delivers delay. It keeps pain alive by giving it purpose. Letting go had not erased the past, but it had stopped it from deciding the future. He didn't feel proud in a dramatic way. There was no moment of victory. Instead, there was calm, the kind that settles in quietly and stays. He felt grounded, present, complete. Ethan accepted that some relationships would never be what he once hoped. That truth no longer felt like failure. It felt like clarity. He had learned that saying no was not an act of cruelty, but an act of self-respect. That boundaries were not walls meant to punish others. That lines drawn to protect what mattered. In the end, the greatest change wasn't in his family. It was in himself. He no longer waited to be chosen. He chose himself. And in doing so, he found something better than revenge. He found peace.